Chris Lee, Blake Lovell, and Max Barr here to preview and predict Alabama's road trip to Starkville, Mississippi, to face the Mississippi State Bulldogs. Victors over Tennessee in a big upset. Not a big upset, small upset, but one we had not seen in Starkville a while, a win of that magnitude. Alabama, one of the high-scoring teams in the country. I think the highest-scoring team in the country. So interesting contrast of styles. And this one is Mississippi State will grind you defensively. You can watch this game on the SEC Network, 7:30 Central. We don't have a line, but what we do is we average BPI, Bart Torvik, and Ken Pomeroy. Those have Alabama is just a little bit under a 2.5-point favorite. The three of them combined give Alabama a 57% chance to win. Before we get into analysis, a reminder, this is brought to you by BetOnline. With NFL playoffs right around the corner and the NBA season in full swing, BetOnline has you covered with all the up-to-the-second odds, news, and scores with additional odds, lines, trends, and info on both desktop and mobile. You can access the world's best wagering information anytime. Head there today, get in on the action, see all the updated odds. Remember to use promo code BELIEVE, that is BLEAV, to get your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, where the game starts. Blake, you get to start. Is the resident Alabama hype man around here? What are we thinking on this game?
Resident Alabama hype man. Just the guy who watches Alabama play basketball. And let me tell you, this is an interesting game because, yeah, I mean, you got to talk about a matchup here. Alabama scoring against Mississippi State's defending and all the results that could bring. It's pretty simple to me. I mean, that's the name of the game here. When you look at just the numbers, I mean, Alabama's 3-point shooting, fantastic. They go up against the 6th best team in the country in 3-point defense. Their effective field goal percentage, top 5. Mississippi State, top 10 in effective field goal percentage defense. Alabama, number 1 in offensive efficiency. Mississippi State, number 10 in defensive efficiency. And you just keep going and going and going. And this is the setup here. Is that can Mississippi State slow this game down, which they're going to have to do, I think, to feel really good about themselves, because I don't want to see a scenario where Mississippi State's having to come down and, try to score, I don't know, 90. I think that's a bad idea. They don't want to play, I think, at Alabama's pace, because I think then that lends itself to not playing through your best players necessarily, which to me, Tolu Smith, I mean, he's got to get touches, which if you want to talk about one of the biggest advantages maybe in the game, I think it's that. I think it's Tolu Smith being able to really challenge the Alabama front court here with his experience, his physicality, all those things. But again, that's going to take Mississippi State playing through him while also getting the obvious contributions from Josh Hubbard. And that's where, Josh Hubbard knocking down some shots like he did against Tennessee is going to be significant. So I don't know, Max. I mean, this one's, on paper, it's pretty clear. Like there's one matchup you're circling, and it's Alabama's offense. Can they do this against Mississippi State's, tremendous defense, which they've been rock solid? That's the name of the game here.
Yeah, this one, man, is it's basically just, pick your poison. What do you trust in more? Do you trust in the Alabama offense more? Or do you trust in the Mississippi State defense more? If you want to dumb it down to just two things. I really don't know how Alabama is going to guard Tolu Smith, because if Jonas Adu and Toby Awaka get bullied, I don't know how Alabama is going to do. I think that's the biggest individual mismatch. In 15 games played here, Josh Hubbard has 3+ threes in 9 of them. That's going to have to be 10 if they're gonna win this game. He's coming off a 5-3 game, so I think that's going to be a major piece. This is interesting here. Alabama's played 2 true road games this year. 2 true road games. They've played at Creighton and at Vandy. They lost against Creighton, and they won by 3 at Vandy. So they have not done that great on the road, but I mean, who has? So you can pretty much say that about every team. The main thing that I'm nervous about in this game, if I'm an Alabama fan, is Alabama has turned the ball over 31 times in the past 2 games. 31 times in the past 2 games. If you just watched that Mississippi State Tennessee game and you saw what DJ Jeffries was doing, you saw what Cam Matthews was doing, man, they turn you over with just on-ball pressure defense better than anyone I've seen this year. So yeah, this is really interesting. Initially, I was like, my first knee-jerk reaction when I saw Alabama Mississippi State was I was like, oh, Mississippi State can't score enough. That was my first thought, was it's Alabama's offense too good. But then when you look into it, you're seeing Alabama's turnovers a little bit, and you just saw what Tolu Smith did and how they can play with pace, and it makes this game very interesting. Chris, you're muted.
Sorry. Yeah, Alabama's had it rolling. It's been a weird season because the computers have loved Alabama. The wins haven't been there. Been scoring against anybody and everybody, home and road, couldn't get the stops. Last couple games, though, Alabama has been slowed down by Vanderbilt on the road. And for a half got slowed down against South Carolina at home before Alabama looked more Alabama-like. Not the same Mississippi State team either, though, with Tolu Smith coming in. He was a beast the other night, that win over Tennessee. I don't know. This is a game that stylistically is just so interesting. And here's the thing that's kind of interesting too, guys. We think of Mississippi State as a grinded-out team. State is only 36th in the country in average possession length against, 16.5 seconds of possession. Alabama only needs 14.3 seconds per possession. So Alabama plays fast. Mississippi State defensively doesn't really stop you in that respect. And Alabama on the other end is one of the slowest tempo teams in the country, holding teams 18.5 seconds as a possession. What do you guys make of all that? Starting with you, Max, in terms of game flow.
Well, I'll say this. I don't think that – I think it's matchup based, right? So I don't think that Alabama is denying every ball screen, denying every passing lane, and you just can't get a look, and you're taken out of your offensive flow, forcing you into late clock shot situations. I think it's more of, we need to slow Alabama down. So we got to milk this clock. I think it's more of that. And then similarly with Mississippi State, I think it's, we cannot let this team get their defense set, because they're just going to grind us to a pulp and not let us get a good shot off. So we got to get out and run and get good looks early. I think it's very matchup based. I don't think that's much of where Mississippi State gives up easy shots right away and Alabama grinds you to a pulp. I think it's very matchup based. And in this matchup specifically, you're going to get Mississippi State trying to slow it down and Alabama trying to speed it up. That's what I took from it. What about you, Blake?
Yeah, I think that's it. I mean, I think it's what you just said. I mean, I feel like that's the flow of the game here. And I'm trying to actually look back at seeing how these games have played out between these two teams, because I feel like that's kind of been the way it's been for a while. Like even when Ben Howland was there, which I'm trying to, I mean, you can talk about timelines just running together. Like, you don't remember who's been there this long and that long. Like it just all runs together to me. But like even back when, yeah, so Howland was there only a couple years ago. You know, and Nate Oates has been there for how many seasons now? If anyone knows off the top of their head.
4 or 5.
So, yeah. So
5, I think.
So again, they've always played the same way. Like Mississippi State does not play that much differently from a possession standpoint than they did in the Howland era. They still play pretty methodical under Jans, just like they did with Howland. So I'm trying to look back and see how some of these games played out. And I mean, look, if you want to go again, historical, how this is, you know, whose favor this has been in. I think Alabama's won 7 of the last 8 between these two teams. So, you know, scoreline wise, Alabama won 72-49 last year in the SEC tournament. Alabama won 66-63 last year as well. That was in Tuscaloosa. 78-67 Alabama in Starkville. 80-75 Alabama and Tuscaloosa, 78-76 in Starkville. Mississippi State won that one. So, you know, it's been hit or miss. There's not been like just an actual one way this thing's played out, which I think I'm always curious about when you have teams like this that play differently. So I don't know. Yeah, it will certainly be dependent on which team can kind of control this thing, because again, if this turns into a slog, we know what that does, right? It's just defensively, it puts a lot of pressure on Alabama to really capitalize on that, especially if we just assume, if we go in with the assumption, well, I think it's hard to do with Alabama because they shoot it so well. But like we've said, we see that the SEC as a whole, the 3-point percentages are going down. If you just maybe assume that Alabama doesn't shoot it as well in this game, then you start to wonder, okay, maybe that gets a little bit interesting from there. Although I look back last year, Alabama went 12 of 32 from three in Starkville. So yeah, like there's so many different dynamics to this, but the turnovers concern me a little bit about Alabama. That's the one thing that I brought up in the last video we did that I think I have circled at the very top of my list in this game.
Well, we'll start with predictions. And Blake, I'll give you one more thing that I think would be concerning if you're Alabama. Mississippi State's 3-point defense, 27% allowed, number 6 in the country. Alabama hitting 39.5% of its threes, ranks 11th in the country. Now, look, I watch Alabama play. They whip the ball around the perimeter so quickly that it's hard to guard. And so I wonder, is this the place where that stat's meaningless? On the other hand, it's not like Alabama's the only team in the country that does that. State's gotten out and guarded. We always know under Chris Jans, as you pointed out, Blake, even before him, this has always been a hard-nosed defensive team. So I have a question there how that resolves. I don't really have a great answer for you. I think I would be tempted to pick Alabama in this game if State were not more offensively inclined. And we have seen Tolo Smith come back and give him 23 the other night. We've seen Josh Hubbard be one of the huge surprises in the league. He gives him 25. My fear for State is in a normal year, State gets in this type of game and just cannot score. It's in a grinded out game that it's hoping to win 52-50. I don't think that State has to win that way this year because of the addition of Hubbard and because of the health of Smith. This game's at home in Starkville. If we're in Tuscaloosa, I would take Alabama. I'm taking Mississippi State for those reasons. Blake, I'll let you go next.
No, I'll let Max go next.
Oh, no, I want Blake to go because
I'll let you go. I'm curious to hear what you think.
Okay.
Some courtesy here.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So the main thing that I'm looking at is the reason that Mississippi State fell apart versus Tennessee was that full court press and the turnovers. But I think one of the main reasons why Mississippi State was so out of whack was because Cam Matthews was in foul trouble. And so he was on the bench, and once he gets back in, they start breaking the press every time. So I thought that was just like a situational thing in that Tennessee game where Matthews is in foul trouble and they really lose their way breaking the press. So I think if he didn't get in foul trouble, maybe Tennessee doesn't even come back in that one. I'm going with Mississippi State here, and I'm going with them because I'm going with Mississippi State because you have to understand that they have a SEC Player of the Year too. And I just haven't been, I know how good Tolo Smith is, but I haven't like mentally, really accepted that. Where we've been talking about Mark Sears almost every game now. And so it's like, well, geez, you got star power on both sides. You have a team that lives by the three, and they're going on the road against a team that shuts off the three. And I'll tell you what, I just got absolutely burned by picking against Mississippi State at home, and I'm still healing from that wound. The wound is still very fresh. I got a bandage on right now. So I'm going with Mississippi State at home, not getting burned again.
Wow. You guys, I tell you, man, I try to bring you to my ways when it comes to the Alabama Crimson Tide basketball program in the 23-24 college basketball season. But you just keep trying to find ways to poke holes in my theory of the Crimson Tide maybe being a team that can win the SEC again. And I would like to point out they're 2-0 right now to start things off with. Alabama, as I said, offensively, I just feel like they are going to put themselves in a position every single game where they can just not necessarily run away with games, but maybe. I mean, they did it against South Carolina. and where it's just they sort of overwhelm you a little bit. And I think South Carolina ran into some of those challenges offensively. Could Mississippi State run into the same type of challenges offensively here, even against an Alabama team that I think will give them more opportunities on the road? Which, again, if you look at what Alabama's done away from home this year, it hasn't always been pretty. So that is at least something worth noting. So since Chris picked Mississippi State, Max picks Mississippi State, I would like to let the fans of the Alabama Crimson Tide know that you are welcome, because I am also going to pick Mississippi State.
No way.
And you have guaranteed yourselves, Alabama fans, a victory in Starkville on Saturday. We just did the full sweep on this game. And man, that's trouble for the Bulldogs. That is trouble for Chris Jans's team.
For those of you that don't know, but right before we started recording this episode, I'm picking different than you guys this time.
Little did you know that we were all this is Auburn, Arkansas from last week.
Yep,
let's just get ready for it.
Congratulations
okay?
on your victory, Alabama. Yep. We have just completely screwed Mississippi. I'll tell you, you work with the guy 3 years, and you think Blake has a tell. He had a tell there. I could see that little smirk, and what that was saying was, you're expecting me to pick Alabama, and I'm about to give you 90 seconds of why Alabama's going to win, and I'm going to go in the other direction at the last minute. That's exactly what our man did.
Now, how many
relishing in the fact that he thought he was going to dupe us?
How many Alabama fans are going to tell me how much I just disrespect this Alabama team after I just picked against them in this game and have basically called them the 80s Lakers combined with the 90s Bulls like over the past month? And just because I picked Mississippi State in this game, I shouldn't have done it, but it's fine. It's okay, because again, I only did it to guarantee the Alabama victory. I only picked Mississippi State to guarantee the victory for the Tide, because that's why I wanted to go last, because I just want to make sure. I knew both of you were picked. I knew both of you guys picked Mississippi State. I had no doubt. So we'll see what happens.
You were going to do the 2023 Missouri to 2024 Alabama all year, aren't you? I think this is what is coming next.
Well, you got to have some fun every year, and you got to pick a team, and you got to roll with it. You got to just, you've got
to pick against them every time to ensure that they win, and that's what you've done.
Yeah. Well, not with Alabama. I tried to tell all you guys that, they're going to beat Vanderbilt, they're going to beat South Carolina. No, but this is, I think, again, a lot of intriguing games. This may be the most intriguing to me this weekend, and I'm not knocking the other games, but there's something about this one and the clash of styles. And anytime these two teams play over the past several years, I just feel like Alabama's kind of had their number a little bit, but it's an interesting one.
Congratulations on your victory, Alabama. We don't take ourselves too seriously here at Southeastern 14, but we take our basketball very seriously. We put in the time. We watch more of it than is probably good for us. And we hope you appreciate it in return. Hit that subscribe button, hit the like button. We'll talk about it. We'll come take our medicine on Sunday. At least you guys will, when Alabama wins this one. So I am Chris Lee for Blake Lovell and Max Barr. Thank you for watching Southeastern 14, presented by BetOnline.